get this money from? Money. Man. Money.
Innovation, family. What is up? It's me, Brandon, your friend, your neighbor, your host, back with another reaction video from Innovation Property Atlanta. But as always, guys, before we get started, remember to like the video, subscribe to my channel, hit that notification button so you guys are up to date when I drop out new videos, and leave comments, feedback in the comment section, and then we'll go from there. Today's reaction video is actually from one of my guys, Richard Fain. He's a pretty big YouTuber down in, I think he's in the Fort Myers, Florida area. Been doing YouTube for a while. He talks really a lot about financial literacy, and he's big into the luxury car space and watches also too. So let's jump into today's video with Richard Fain, talking about how you should go about buying a car from a dealership. Let's make it happen.
The channel, welcome back to another video. If you're stopping by the channel for the first time, please consider subscribing to my channel, and while you're at it, smash that like button for me. I really would appreciate it. In today's video, we're going to talk about the pros and cons to paying cash for a car. With the exception of a home, our second biggest purchase we will make is typically for a car. The number one pro is you pay no interest if you pay cash for the car. If you were to finance the car, and let's say the car was a $10,000 price, and you got a 4.5% interest rate from your bank for 5 years. Over the course of that 5 years, at a 4.5% interest rate, you would actually pay $1,200 in interest. By paying cash, you save that $1,200.
All right, guys, I just want to first start off by saying I am always going to be a fan of paying cash for everything. Being in debt is no fun. You got cash to be able to afford it. Depends on how you invest your money and how you handle your finances. You can never go wrong with paying cash, especially for a car. Depending on the price of the vehicle. I'm a fan of paying cash for stuff when you can, because it means you got the money to pay for it, especially you're able to manage your money. You still got money in emergency and also in savings. I'm a fan of paying cash, especially for cars. I'm not really a big car guy in terms of spending a lot of money on a personal car. So I'm a big fan of just paying it off and being done with it. So this you guys are wondering what side am I on? I'm on the pay cash side.
Let's talk about the second pro to paying cash for a car, which is you stay within your budget. Most times when we start thinking about a car, we have a budget in mind. Have $10,000 that I'm willing to spend on a car. More times than not, when I go looking for that car, I'm going to stay within that $10,000 budget. But if I'm going to finance the car, in many cases, we actually go over our budget. Why? Because a lot of times we're not taking any money out of our pocket, especially if we have good credit and we're able to get 100% financing on that $10,000. So the second pro is you stay within your budget. The third pro is cash back deals. Now, when I go into a car dealership and I'm starting to look at different cars that I may purchase, depending upon if it's a new or used car, there may be some cash back incentives if I were to decide to pay cash for that car. For instance, in 2020, when the pandemic hit, obviously a lot of people stopped buying large ticket items. And one of the things the automobile manufacturers started doing was offering tremendous cash back deals if people would buy a certain car and pay cash for it. So that's a pro. If you're paying cash, you're going to get some cash back in your pocket that you can then apply to the purchase of that car you're looking at buying. The fourth pro you get is negotiating power. So if you walk into a car dealership, or if you're buying a car from a private individual and you got cash in hand, you're gonna be in a better position to be able to negotiate the price that you want because you got cash. And that's a huge pro for paying cash for a car, guys. Now let's also talk about some of the cons to paying cash for a car. The first one is opportunity cost. An opportunity cost is simply this. If I got $10,000 that I'm getting ready to spend on a car, the question I gotta ask myself is, would it be better to take that $10,000 and put it into an investment that's gonna pay me more than what I'm gonna pay if I finance that car? Let's go back to the scenario where you were able to go to your bank, get a 4.5% loan for 60 months.
Now that point will hold true only if you find something you can invest your money in. It's going to make money in return, or you can save money. A lot of times in our head, we think that's the theory is correct, but the practice is totally different than how you actually execute that strategy. When it comes to putting your money somewhere else, it's going to make you more money. That's really hard to find unless you got a lot of money sitting around where you know what you're investing in, whether that be in the stock market, whether it be in real estate or business opportunities. It's hard to make a big margin of return compared to paying cash for a liability.
$10,000. Now, if you take that $10,000 and you invest it in something like an S&P 500 ETF, and you get a 10% return on that $10,000 over the next 5 years against a 4.5% interest rate that you will pay the bank for borrowing the money over the next 5 years, let's take a look at what the difference is. Now, on a $10,000 investment in an S&P 500 ETF at 10% over the next 5 years, you're going to earn about $6,000 in interest. If you decided to take a loan and you paid the bank 4.5% interest over the next 5 years on $10,000, you're going to pay about $1,200. So the opportunity cost to take $10,000 of your cash and buy a car outright is really about $5,000, right? The second con is you miss out on finance deals. Back to 2020 when the pandemic hit, since people were not buying large ticket items, car manufacturers said, okay, if you buy a car from us, we're gonna give you 0 interest for 72 months. So that means you pay no interest for 72 months and you don't have to put any money down if your credit is good enough. See, that is a finance perk, right? That's a finance deal that you get if you do not pay cash for the car. The third con against paying cash for a car, in my opinion, is you deplete your savings account. A lot of times we take money out of our savings account, which could be our emergency fund, in order to pay cash for a car. And in my opinion, I believe that's a con, right? We should never jeopardize our emergency fund in order to buy a car. But many of us do,
agree with
right?
that.
So that's the third con against paying cash for a car. Now let me give you guys my opinion on whether you should pay cash for a car. Well, I'm under the belief that the opportunity cost, for me at least, to take my money out of my investments or out of my savings and put it into a car is too great, right? So I believe financing a car in my situation makes more sense because I can take my money that I would have paid cash, I can take that money, put it into the stock market and get me an 8, 10, 15% return on my money for the period of time that I have the loan. Now, you will need to make that determination for yourself. I know for some of you guys, you want to be debt-free and you don't want to have any car payments, and that's okay. So it's an individual choice whether you pay cash or you finance a car. The important thing to think about though is we should always be staying within our means, right? We should never buy a car that's more than what we can afford to spend, right? We should never buy a car cash if it's going to deplete our emergency fund either. Still have to be fiscally responsible whether we decide to pay cash.
So that was my guy, Richard Payne. Again, I'm a big fan of his YouTube channel. Does great financial work. So he's on the side of financing for him personally because he does a lot of probably big transactions. He's big into exotic cars also too. For him, it makes perfect sense for him not to want to finance. Pay cash for a vehicle. But for you guys, I recommend paying cash, especially for your first couple of Turo cars if you can. So that's today's video, guys. You guys, thanks for tapping into the reaction video. You guys have a good rest of your day.
Never been so lucky I can have it all. Can I simply ask you where you get this money from?